Guys, I am back, and I saw in the comments a few days ago, someone named Sauce Rap had requested that I do a video or videos on some ideas of what teams are going to do or where free agents are going to go, and I'm going to do that. This is going to be about free agents, of course, but I'm going to get into some other videos over the next couple of weeks in terms of who's going to go, what teams should do, and things like that. I do have some really good out-of-the-box ideas that people might have thought about, but truly haven't considered. So let's get into this. This is going to be free agent concepts of who's going to go where, or if they're going to stay and whatnot. Let's break this down. So bear with me. I have a two-screen setup going on here. It's a bit, I was going to write it all down, but I figured I might as well just pull up two screens. So we're going to start with Paul Millsap. Now, I feel that if Atlanta can make a sudden impact in free agency or even in the draft, they can find a way to keep Paul Millsap. I said this the other day to someone, and they agree with me. It makes perfect sense to give up the Minnesota pick that they have next year, the 2018 Minnesota pick, just to get a Doc Rivers or somebody to be that president of operations who you know can do what you need, can get that job done, can rebuild this team from the ground up if needed. Or even walk in there and say, hey, Paul Millsap is here, or we're going to get Paul Millsap, whatever you need to do. I feel going after somebody like that, giving up that first-round pick next year, that extra pick you have, makes sense to do. This is the Atlanta Hawks we're talking about here. I don't know if they're going to do something like that, but that's a huge consideration. I see Paul Millsap staying. The only other team I see him going to, it's a toss-up between Toronto and Portland. I don't see him going to Toronto for the reasons that they want to supposedly keep Ibaka, but he may not stay there. But I do see Millsap most likely going to Portland. I don't see them having the money to do it. I don't see them having the trade pieces unless Portland decides that they want to call Atlanta during the draft and say, hey, what three guys would you want in this draft? And we will swap guys, and we'll give you our three guys, the three first-round picks for your first-round pick and Paul Millsap, and that is it. And we'll even add a couple of picks. Whatever they want to do. I mean, unless they're trying to do something like that, or maybe, drops. I see Paul Millsap fitting in Portland the best. I don't see him going anywhere. I see him staying in Atlanta the most because of what Atlanta can do. Not they're going to compete with Cleveland tomorrow, but if they can keep Paul Millsap and get a good, solid mid-season, probably right at the deadline, good trade, I see them being competitors, and I see them being top 5 with that. Going after a guy along the lines of, let's just say they could work a deal for Jimmy Butler. I'm not saying giving up 4 picks like they tried to do for Paul George. I'm saying if they can draft Justin Jackson in the draft and put him at the 3 and go after a shooting guard, whether it be, J.J. Redick, or even, like I said, at the deadline, you make a trade for a Jimmy Butler or somebody along those lines that can solidify your 2 spot, then they'll be set. Yes, everybody debates the whole Dwight thing, but that's something to debate another day. The next one is Derrick Rose. See, I see him staying with he fits the Knicks a little bit. But there's been a lot of talk of him wanting to go to Milwaukee or Minnesota. If he's going to go to Milwaukee, which I think he fits better than Minnesota, I feel that he should end up, that the Knicks should try to do it as a sign-and-trade deal. Get Dellavedova out of it, maybe even a future pick, a year, 2 years, 3 years down the line, so that you can build off of that. Because if they can get let's just say they get another pick for next year, they can go after somebody who they feel works. But giving Rose up for Dellavedova and maybe somebody else works. Because Dellavedova, yes, he's not a starting point guard, but he can work up to that. He can be worked into that scenario, into that suggestion, into the, he's cheap enough to run the team for a couple of years until you get your point guard ready to go. That's where I think they should go with it. Next on the list is Ginobili, but we know he's staying. They're going to find a way to keep him at all costs in San Antonio. Jeff Green, I don't see Jeff Green getting a lot of money this offseason. I see him maybe considering taking a huge pay cut and going somewhere to win in the next 20 minutes kind of thing. Win this year kind of thing. Where he's going to go, I don't know. I've had this weird thought the last couple of days that Jeff Green may end up going to Cleveland, but I don't think LeBron would want to deal with him because of his ego at times. Plus, Jeff Green, I guess he thinks he's LeBron, but just what he's been doing doesn't make it seem like he would fit in Cleveland's system. The one team I see him going to, Jeff Green, is New Orleans. I just don't see him working in that system. But I can see him and Boogie and AD doing some great things back and forth. But it would have to be at a very minimum contract for them to even be interested. He may end up staying in Orlando for $10 million a year, of course being overpaid. But then again, I mean, anybody's around. Miami is a huge consideration for Jeff Green because they need somebody like him to just come in, play, and Miami could probably change him like they did Waiters. Like they could make him into something that, like they did with Waiters, in a way that nobody's seen before. So, I mean, that's an idea. It's a suggestion, but who knows? Rudy Gay. Now, with Rudy Gay, I see him going to one of three teams. I see him going to either Oklahoma City, and I think that works well. But I also see him going to Houston. Now, him in Houston can help get that team to the next step because that's where they've been lacking. They need a Rudy Gay type player to come off the bench, and that's where what we could see in the playoffs is that they needed. They needed that guy who can play in the last quarter, who can play when the minutes count, when the minutes count, and when the time is needed. They need something like that. If they can get him cheap enough, I see him going to Houston the most. But another team that has been truly considered is the Clippers, but I think that's a very long shot of happening because it's just the whole point of what they're building, or what supposedly they're building in the Clippers, is he's not going to want to go there. If everybody walks, then there's no point. Amir Johnson, again, this is a guy that I don't see making a lot of money this offseason. He may end up going to Charlotte and just making like $5 to $6 million and just helping them get to that next level because he's been to the conference finals. He knows what he's kind of talking about. He knows kind of what he's looking for in a way like that. Now, another person on this list is Kyle Lowry. I want Lowry to stay in Toronto. I feel that if he goes to Philly, it would be the biggest waste of time for him because he's not going to do anything. He's not going to get far. He can compete more in Toronto than anybody else could. Than him going anywhere else. If he goes to Philly, he can't compete. But if he stays in Toronto, he can continue to compete against Cleveland. Again, with another one, Iguodala, Steph Curry, guys like Kevin Durant. I don't see any of those three guys leaving. They got something in Golden State. They're going to stay. Drew Holiday, I want to say he's going to stay. I feel that he's going to stay. I feel that it's in his heart to stay because he started his family in New Orleans. He's got his friends there. Him and AD seem to be very good friends. But then again, money talks and everything else walks. I see New Orleans handing him a solid amount of money, but also saying, but they're going to have to say, hey, listen, we're going to have to take a little bit because we've got some ideas. If they know where they're going with it, then they can do something well out of it. Zach Randolph, I think he'll stay in Memphis. I think they're going to have to give him a lot less money. He's probably going to have to take a big enough cut to stay. Serge Ibaka, I want him to stay in Toronto to compete, but I do see him going somewhere along the lines of Houston to play with Harden, or going back to OKC, which I highly doubt. But I think his best bet is Toronto, but knowing him, he will have a conversation with Harden and change his mind. But his best bet is Toronto, as I said. Danilo Gallinari. Now, here's my thing with Gallinari. Does nobody realize how good he really is? Yes, he's in Denver, but what has Denver given him? What have they brought him? They haven't gotten him far, and that's the issue. See, here's the thing. If you team up Gallinari with a solid player or players, if you put Gallinari on a super team, you would have something amazing. And a lot of people don't seem to realize that. And here's the thing. I see, depending on how the Clippers pick and choose what they're going to do this offseason, I see Gallinari fitting well with the Clippers. I see him doing some amazing things, especially because of the fact that he can play not just the 3, but he could play the 4 as well. He could do what's needed in the long haul. He's a good, solid enough closer, but he's also good with the long ball. He is very good in that corner spot, just chilling. And that's what I think, if he brought that to the table with the Clippers, depending on how they go about it, I'm going to get into the Clippers thing in a few minutes, but you'll see what I mean by I think he fits better because of what they can bring to the table. Now, the next person on the list is Taj Gibson. I want him to stay in OKC because of what he's been doing because of what he did the last month and a half in OKC. He did some fairly good things. However, the money is very bare in OKC. So a lot of where he's going to go does depend on money, but he may end up staying for less. But another thought of a team that he might end up going to, which could work well in his favor, because let's be honest, their power forward is not even good, the Lakers. He could do something good for the Lakers. He's not going to be their it guy, but he can bring something to the table that they need that Randall can't do. The next player on my list, Splitter is gonna. I see Splitter staying in Philly, but I highly doubt he will. He fits best there. What makes sense for Splitter is New York, the New York Knicks, because of the fact that he plays the power forward center. They need help off the bench. If they can get Splitter on a solid amount of money, he can do well behind Porzingis. I think that's his best option, but I think he's going to stay in Philly. Next on my list is Jeff Teague. I think Jeff Teague is going to stay in Indiana. I think Indiana is going to pull something crazy out of their asses this offseason. What I think is going to happen, and everybody calls me crazy, and I am going to make a video on this because I think that this is what they need to do the most. I have a feeling that Indiana is going to make the craziest trade of the summer, and that's going to be for Jimmy Butler. Think about this for a second. Monte Ellis, a couple of picks, CJ Miles and whatnot, in a sign and trade or whatever, for Jimmy frickin' Butler. How great of a team does that sound? If they can get Teague back and you have Butler at the 2, George at the 3, Thad Young and Miles Turner at the 4-5, you're done. That can stomp Cleveland in if they build a solid bench off of that. that team could take Cleveland to the limit and farther. The next player is George Hill. I think he's staying in Utah. However, he does kind of fit what Minnesota's looking for. I just don't think Minnesota is going to want to pay him what he's worth. And that's where I think their issue is going to be. Now, I'm going to get into the Clippers, the 3 Clippers that are free agents. I am going to make a video on this as well of what the Clippers should do. I'm considering it. I've got this huge thing with the Clippers of what they should do. If the Clippers decide that they don't want Chris Paul, and they can do I don't see him staying there anyway. But in order for them to move him, in order for him to go to wherever he wants to go, which is the Spurs most likely, a sign and trade deal needs to happen. Now, in that sign and trade, what would you expect to get? They're most likely going to have to take on Paul George, Danny Green, and a couple of picks, which makes sense, which is solid for what the Clippers can do. DeAndre Jordan may end up being traded. Again, I will break it down. Let me know if you guys want me to do this video because it's kind of complex enough. But let's just say the Clippers decide that they want to bring in, they want to keep Blake Griffin out of the main 3. Now, that means what about JJ Redick? Now, they could also trade away, they could also try to do a sign and trade deal with Redick. I don't think that it'll work because a lot of teams can kind of afford him. But what if they can get rid of JJ Redick for a Zach LaVine? Or what if they can get rid of him for a couple of picks for next year? Not for 2017, but for 2018. Something like that. Now, again, Crawford's on the team as well. You may have to drop him. But I think Blake's going to stay. And I think everything else is going to fall into piece. The dominoes will fall eventually. And everybody else will walk. And then they'll rebuild off of Blake. That, I think, is their best option. Because if you build around Blake, what you're going to get is what Dirk brought the Mavs in 2011. I feel that Blake is the next person to win without a major super team, and he's going to be the one that beats a super team to do it. I think that that's what's going to happen. Because if you look at what the Mavericks did in 2011, they had veteran guys who were at one point all-stars and whatnot, but if you add a little bit of veteran magic with a little bit of rookie magic, with a little bit of this, a little bit of that, some defense, some assist gods, some rebound grabbing monsters, whatever you need, if you can kind of maneuver the same kind of team that the Mavericks had, but build it around Blake, I see something amazing happening. And that's why I feel him and Gallinari could do well, but that could be considered a super team. But anyway. Now with that, Redick is most likely going to Minnesota. Supposedly the Knicks are involved. They want him, but they don't have, I don't even know where the hell they're coming up with that kind of money. Chris Paul will most likely be going to the Spurs, but has anyone even thought or even considered Chris Paul to Atlanta? I mean, hear me out on this. If Chris Paul and D Wade both say we're walking, and they both go to Atlanta with Paul Millsap and Dwight Howard, that is a solid team. That is incredible. That's an incredible team. But then again, has anybody considered it? Now, going off of that, I'm going to go with the next person on the list, who is Kyle Korver. I don't see him staying in Cleveland. I feel that he's not what they're looking for. I didn't even think that when they first brought him in from the jump with that trade, I feel like they wasted a pick on even getting him. They should have went after PJ Tucker or somebody along that line that they knew that they could have gotten more out of, but I feel that Korver fit what they were doing in some points, but not everywhere. But I see Korver probably going to like a Clippers or something along that line on a, not a minimum deal, but probably $5 million or less. Probably anywhere between $3 and $5 million, but I see him doing some amazing things with them. Yes, he's what, 36 years old. He's probably got another year, maybe two. But if you can get him on a 2-year $10 million or a 2-year $8 million deal for, pennies on the dollar basically, and you get out of him what you need, and they can get a couple of draft picks out of it, and they can draft for the future, and they get a young stud shooting guard, small forward kind of, who Korver can train and do what is needed out of it, you can have something incredible with that. Now, the next person on my list, I'm not going to go through everybody. I'm only going through the people that really fit kind of, or really are, I'm not going to tell you where Alex Len is going to go, because let's be honest, Alex Len hasn't done anything in years. He's probably just going to re-sign with Phoenix on a $20 a day deal. Otto Porter, I want him to stay in Washington. However, I feel that Philly's going to scoop him up out of nowhere. Why they're going to grab him, I don't know, because they just always seem that they need these big guys and they need these small forwards when Ben Simmons is a small forward, but he can't shoot a 3-ball half the time. But I see what they're going with it is, oh yeah, Ben Simmons is this, and he's going to be our point guard of the future, but we need a small forward again because of that. And I see them offering Otto Porter a solid amount of money. I just don't see him going there. But if the money's right, I think he'll say peace out to Washington and just dip. I see him doing that. Nerlens Noel, I see him staying in Dallas. And the reason why is because of what they can build off of it. Everybody says that this is not the right thing to do, but if they can go after Lauri Markkanen with the ninth spot, not that he's the next Dirk, but Markkanen can become something along the lines of Dirk. If they can get Lauri Markkanen, they can do something incredible. Now, another thought, what if they traded off that pick? What if they traded back off of the 9th pick to, let's just say, they could probably make a deal with Brooklyn for both of their top 20 picks. Now, yes, 2 top 20 picks for the 9th overall is not anything. But you could also say, hey, let us get a 2020 second rounder and a 2019 second rounder, whatever. You can grab a couple of random picks for it and just have what you need out of it. And with that, then you can go for a Terrence Ferguson that you didn't have to waste a whole bunch of money on grabbing him 9th overall. You can also grab somebody along the lines of a Tyler Lydon or who fits well. Not that Kurix is even going this year because he, of course, backed out. But somebody, I have a list here of who's getting drafted. Somebody along the lines of maybe a Tony Bradley, even though they've got their 2 big spots. Jordan Bell, he could work well, but that's who it is. Isaiah Hartenstein, however you want to say it. I feel that if they're going to trade back, you get Terrence Ferguson, you have your shooting guard. Then you have Isaiah Hartenstein to play your power forward who can learn from Dirk. And again, not that he's going to be Dirk, but if he learns from Dirk and you team him and Nerlens Noel up, you've got something great out of it. I do see them staying with the 9th pick, but again, out of the box, they might want to trade back. Either way, Markkanen, Hartenstein, whatever, they're gonna team somebody up with Noel for the future, and that's gonna be pretty great. Now, there's not really a lot of other good people on this list. Dwayne Dedmon, he's gonna go. He may stay in San Antonio. I don't see him making the money there. I see them paying him a lot less for no apparent reason, but he can do something great, and that's the best part about it. He's going to end up... I see him honestly fitting in what Portland's trying to do. If they can get him on a $6 or $7 million, if they can get a couple of contracts off the books, if they can get Crabbe off the books, Harkless off the books, do what they need to do, and then just, even if they can get Turner off the books too, get a couple guys off the books and just get a couple of free agents and draft a couple of young studs, you can get something good out of it. But adding Dedmon to Lillard and the whole crew that they have can be solid, and that's a good thing. Again, not really a lot of good people. Caldwell Pope supposedly is going to be getting $25 million a year. I see why. He's going to be getting upwards of $20 million. I think they said it was 25. But anyway, I see him getting that kind of money. Where he's going to go, I don't know. He'll probably go to the Brooklyn Nets on a full max contract just because they're paying him. But I think that's his best. I think his best option is to stay, but of course, like I said, he's going to go. I'm going to do a few more here because there's a lot of these players are just whatever. Dion Waiters, I think he's going to stay in Miami. He's going to be doing what's needed to continue to build that team better, and he's going to do everything that's needed. Now, I see him doing a lot of good things. They're going to pay him a bit, but they're not going to give him a max. They're going to tell him, listen, we're building something. We're going after somebody specific. Take a little bit less, and we'll call it even kind of thing. We'll even give you, a couple of incentives here and there, whatever. Now, that leads to Gordon Hayward. I don't see Gordon Hayward going to Boston. I think that he's going to waste his time going to Boston. I think, again, this might work better than Gallinari, but Hayward to the Clippers. If you can team Hayward and Blake Griffin up, or, if you can keep Chris Paul in that and get DJ off the team, whatever, somehow Gordon Hayward can work well in what the Clippers are trying to do, what they can do. Now, people have said Miami. I see him going to Miami. I just don't see Miami doing anything with, even if they have him, don't see them getting that far. They may go second round in the playoffs, but that's it. I don't see them competing too well, but that's that. Michael Carter-Williams is probably, he at one point was not good, but with what he showed this year in Chicago, he is highly underrated right now, and he's going to sign somewhere and blow up again, and I feel like that's going to happen because he's a rookie of the year. He knows what he's doing. It's just that he's getting into the wrong systems. He's signing with the wrong teams. He works well as going to the Clippers. He could do well going probably to Brooklyn, but they're not going to do anything. So, he fits that coaching system. It's just that he doesn't fit what the team that they have is. But he would do well with the Clippers. He would do well with Phoenix. He would do well with, I want to say Denver, but they've got a lot already. But one place that I see Michael Carter-Williams going, and nobody's ever going to consider this, and everybody's going to think I'm crazy for this, but you have to agree with me on this. Oklahoma City. Michael Carter-Williams, even if he signs a 1-year deal, to play behind Russell Westbrook, to learn a little bit more, to get mentored just for a year, and then he blows up and goes, I'll take $5 million a year next year. I would take $1.5 million just to play behind Westbrook for a year. You learn, you get your 15, 20 minutes a game, you blow up. Even if he puts up 15 points a game at the end of the season, people will say, okay, yeah, he's the starting guy. He's that next guy. He's next on the list. He's going to be that next big thing. He's going to be something. And that's probably what's going to end up happening. Now, again, I'm down at the bottom of the list. Mason Plumlee, he's going to just re-sign with Denver. Let's be honest here. Kelly Olynyk. I want to say Kelly Olynyk is going to stay in Boston, but I'm more of a out-of-the-box thinker, as you guys can tell. And call me crazy on this, but wouldn't it make sense for Boston that since they've been lacking in terms of big men, in the big men position, right? Why go after a Gordon Hayward, a Jimmy Butler, a Paul George when that's not where you're lacking? Your 3-point shot is fine. If if you make it too overbearing, you're not going to do anything. You need a guy who can stand under the basket the whole time and do what is needed. Horford can't do that. Horford is a power forward. He's a glorified power forward. That's why I still don't understand why he was playing center for half the time in Atlanta. So, let's just say Doc Rivers or whoever's running the Clippers at this point calls up Boston on July 1st and says straight up, DeAndre Jordan for Marcus Smart, Jaylen Brown, and Kelly Olynyk in a sign and trade, and the 2019 pick that you have of the Clippers. If they want to add the Nets pick next year, that is fine. I don't see it happening. They may want to add their own pick, the Boston pick, because it's going to probably fall to top 25. But if they can get the Nets pick out of that, even if they just say, okay, keep Jaylen Brown. Just give us the Nets pick. Give us our pick back for 2019, but give us Olynyk on a sign and trade. Give us Marcus Smart, whatever. They could do some amazing things with that. They're not getting rid of Isaiah. They're not getting rid of Avery Bradley. They're not getting rid of Crowder, and they're not getting rid of Horford in this idea. And they're just adding DeAndre Jordan to it. Yes, they're getting rid of possibly Jaylen Brown, possibly Kelly Olynyk, and possibly Marcus Smart, but look at what else they have. They also are going to be adding Markelle Fultz in this. So you're replacing Marcus Smart with a better, I wouldn't say better, but you're replacing Marcus Smart with another point guard who can do the same job and is going to end up starting very well eventually. But you're still getting your stuff back. You're still gaining picks. You're still getting what you need out of it. You're just giving up a few things to get the guy that you need to get to that next level to stomp in Cleveland. But that's what I think needs to happen. I think that's not too out of the box because it fits well with what the Clippers could do. It also fits well with what Boston needs. Because if you go based upon Boston's needs, you're set. Now, that is my time, guys. I've gone through most of the free agents. If I missed anybody, I'm sorry. I've tried to go based upon the whole concept of who might be available and whatnot. And I went based upon who announced themselves already because a lot of these guys haven't really announced that they're leaving because, let's be honest, most of them just want to stay. If I missed anybody, I'm sorry, but I'm not going to start talking about random guys like Reggie Bullock, and I'm not going to go deep with this because I've already gone through a good 30, 40 guys already, 30, 40 players already. I'm not going to sit here and just keep going down the list. I've got another 200 on my list. I'm not you guys are already 30-something minutes into this. I'm going to end it here, but I just want you guys to, one quick thing, if you haven't subscribed yet, please subscribe. Give this video a big thumbs up if you liked it. And also, I'm going to be doing a mock draft in the next couple of days, but I want to see how you guys feel about this. Leave a comment down below if you think I should do one of three things. Should I do a draft that's just lottery? Should I do the first round pick, all the first round, or should I do the entire draft of all 60 picks? I want you guys to decide, and you guys are going to help me figure out what's what. So let's do this. Have a good day, everybody, and I will see you next time.